Well, unless you've been living under a rock for the last 7 years, then you'll probably know that the My Little Pony Friendship is Magic series has taken on a life of its own, spawning a massive fan base, several spin-off movies, documentaries, and a new feature film that came out last year and was met with worldwide acclaim of...
Well, that was interesting, alright.
And before you ask, no, I'm not one of those insane fans that collects the toys and creates my own original characters and stories and stuff like that, but I am a professional. So I figured if I'm going to take a look at something, I should at least be respectful enough to understand it first and do some research. So I did watch enough of the show to get a basic grasp of the premise and characters, like Twilight Princess, Lesbian Seagull, Bitch Horse, and Scrappy Doo. And it's fine. At its heart, it's still a show that's targeted at young people to teach them simple life lessons like the value of honesty, friendship, and hard work. And when you compare it to shows we grew up with like G.I. Joe or Transformers that were literally just created to sell toys, I think it's commendable that TV shows are starting to put effort into creating something of actual artistic value. There's enough clever writing and some really great comedic timing that makes it enjoyable for anyone. There's even references to older movies like The Big Lebowski and Dumb and Dumber, so it's obvious the creators know there's going to be adults watching this show as well, whether with their kids or of their own volition. It's not something I would watch in my spare time, but I don't begrudge anybody who does, and that's where things get interesting. Honestly, I think the funniest thing about this fandom is the way the internet just loses its shit whenever anybody even mentions ponies.
Hey, how's it going?
Oh my god, autism cringe!
I mean, I sorta get the idea. We're adults, right? We share jokes from adult TV shows like The Office and Parks and Recreation. The internet has no patience for jokes from children's shows, and nobody in their right mind would ever publicly admit to watching something like that. Except SpongeBob SquarePants, and Phineas and Ferb, and Fairly Odd Parents, and Powerpuff Girls, and Pokemon, and Sonic Boom, and Danny Phantom, and Jimmy Neutron, and Steven Universe, and Magic School Bus, and Courage the Cowardly Dog, and Codename Kids Next Door, and Dexter's Laboratory, and Johnny Bravo, and Cow and Chicken, and Ed, Edd and Eddy. But yeah, you get what I'm talking about. Reference any other cartoon online and people won't even think twice about it. But reference this show and get ready for a serious shitstorm. I think the only show I've seen more hated than this is Big Bang Theory, and you never see My Little Pony slot machines. Yet. But this is a show to talk about video games, so to start us off, there were actually a good number that existed before the current Friendship is Magic series, or Gen 4 as it's called. There were a bunch of PC activity centers and stuff like that, but the first one to be released on an actual system was My Little Pony Crystal Princess The Runaway Rainbow for the Game Boy Advance. Let's take a look. Based on the 2006 direct-to-DVD special of the same name, this game features you playing as Rarity, as she takes on her new responsibilities as a rainbow princess. Rarity, are you listening? You need to pay attention and learn about rainbows. This is the type of hard-hitting drama I expect to see in a My Little Pony game. I will say the graphics are pretty impressive for the GBA. They're all really colorful and work well within the limitations of the system. The sprites are absolutely massive with decently smooth animation, which may be why they never have more than a few on screen at once. If you're only familiar with Friendship is Magic, then the original designs and roles of the characters can be rather jarring. I find it interesting that Rarity is pink, but when they moved her to Gen 4, suddenly she's white. Clearly this is Hollywood's attempt at taking yet another pink role and giving it to a white pony. Gameplay pretty much boils down to wandering around and finding ponies to help. Hi, Rarity, I'm hanging rainbow ribbons on the bridge. Could you find 3 more for me? Gee, I wonder where they could possibly be. They're so well hidden, these things could be literally anywhere. Yeah, I get this game is for little kids, but I think even kids would find this to be insultingly simple. Even if you don't know where to look, if you wait around long enough, by which I mean like 2 seconds, an arrow will appear and tell you exactly where you need to go. So after finding some ribbons and flags, you return to the castle to help clean up the carriage for the upcoming festival. Oh yuck, the carriage is dirty. Ready? Ready. Bubble fight! You've got to be kidding me. We have to clean the carriage! Let's throw bubbles at each other in the vague general vicinity of it. This is what men who write lesbian porn think women do when they're having a car wash.
Splash fight!
The game follows the plot of the movie to an extent, but mostly it's just a premise on which to present their minigames, so I hope you like collecting ribbons because guess what? That's the entire game. You collect ribbons, flags, fruit, supplies for making kites, and, rather annoyingly, even though you could pick up several items at the start of the game, the later chapters force you to pick them up one at a time, and it's exactly as tedious as it sounds. Even if you know where the other items are, they don't appear until you've taken the last one back and turned it in. It's just a transparent way to pad out the game, which is already pretty short, only about an hour long. The minigames are all pretty basic. You've got a card matching game, a Simon game, catch the fruit, connect the dots, caterpillar catch. Most of these end as soon as you score 10 points, which doesn't even let the player attempt to be competitive and go for a high score. Not that you would want to, but it would be nice to have the option to add at least some replay value to the game. You've got this drawing game, which is just pathetic. Even when you select the basic pen, it just comes out as a series of dots. If you want anything to draw smoothly, you have to go really slowly. I am at a loss for words. But even that's better than the coloring minigame, which lets you use the mystical, magical superpower of flood fill to color in one of a few random pictures however you like. No matter what you do, it still tells you congratulations, even if you turn in a completely blank picture. There's virtually no way to fail most of these games. In Rainbow Berry Rain, you can literally just stand still and let the berries fall into the hat. It doesn't matter how many you miss, as long as you eventually catch 10. The only one that comes close to being a real game is Pinkie Pie Pinball, but guess what? Even that one's really disappointing. It uses the shoulder buttons for the flipper, so at least they're trying, but there's virtually nothing to interact with on the field, so I don't think this would hold anybody's attention for more than a few minutes. This whole game just reeks of unjustified laziness. You could tell whoever was behind it took one look at their assignment and went, ugh, My Little Pony, a video game for little girls? Fine, let's make everything pink, bright cheery music, we can't have the story anything too heavy because that would be too scary, and girls aren't competitive, so we'll get rid of the high score list and just make it so everybody's a winner. If I were still a little girl, I'd be insulted. Moving on from one minigame collection to the next, we have My Little Pony Pinkie Pie's Party for the Nintendo DS. Released in September 2008, this came out around the time when Friendship is Magic was already in early pre-production. It was made by much of the same team, reusing assets from the previous game, but the graphics are a bit more crisp, with more frames of animation for the characters walking into the foreground and background.
Use the control pad to move Pinkie Pie.
Oh god, it's talking. It's about as long as Runaway Rainbow, only about an hour, but it seems to be a lot more focused. Instead of spreading the story out across 5 different chapters, everything takes place in Ponyville. There's even a bit of open world aspect as you can wander around and talk to different characters in any order you want, unlocking various minigames and winning presents as a reward. There are 20 different presents to find and 12 puzzle pieces, which unlocks a jigsaw puzzle minigame. There's something about Tula's expression here that just makes me chuckle, like, hey, what are you thinking about? I don't know, pony stuff. There's still some weird stuff in this. The background ponies never seem to stay in one place, so it's almost like they're teleporting around in a really creepy way. Bye, Sweetie Belle. Ah! Like before, you can get hints where you need to go just by checking the map, and then that's basically it. You go around and play minigames with every pony until you can find all the presents and puzzle pieces. The minigames are also way better in this. At the very least, you have to actually take your hand out of your diaper and look at the screen to win. There's even a rudimentary rhythm game where you have to hit wind chimes to the beat of the song.
Tap the wind chime that matches the color of the note when it's in the box.
It's not hard, but at least they're trying. There's a pretty simple scooter racing game and a deceptively difficult game where you have to draw circles around butterflies to match the one at the top. But the one at the top changes without warning quite frequently, so you'll always end up circling one just as it's too late to get credit. A lot of these use the stylus and microphone, so they do a fairly good job at keeping things interesting for younger kids.
Tap on the arrows to repeat the steps.
Oh jeez, is every minigame collection I review gonna contain a Simon clone? Sparkling Truffle, Kirby Tilt and Tumble, Runaway Rainbow, and now this.
Ready, set, go!
Oh yeah, just look at those sweet dance moves. Once you get your presents, you can open them and even play with them, which are little more than interactive gadgets, but again, it's something. It's a small reward for a job well done. Oh hey, a sticker set. Oh no, Rainbow Dash and Pinkie Pie are stomping on the cakes! And they've thrown her present into the fire! Look, what do you want from me? I'm just trying to stay awake. But no joke, I really don't think this is that bad of a game for its target audience. It guides you through without constantly forcing its hand, and the minigames actually do require some minimum level of skill to get 100%. There's virtually nothing here to keep adults interested, but if your 4-year-old is a fan and can get past the Gen 3 visuals, this isn't really that terrible of a choice, all things considered. But with those out of the way, it's time to move on to more familiar pastures. Now, all the Friendship is Magic games came out for mobile devices, because that's just where they release shovelware these days. So next up, we have My Little Pony Harmony Quest.
It was an ordinary day in Ponyville. The sun was shining, the birds were singing,
And the birds and the sun was almost down from the top of the sky.
Queen Chrysalis and her army of changelings have broken into Twilight's castle and stolen the elements of harmony, as well as pieces of her stained glass mural which have never been shown in the series before or since. And it's up to the main 6 to get them back. Seriously, they're referred to that by name.
Now it's up to the main 6 to set things right.
This one is intended for really, really young kids, probably around the same age as Pinkie Pie's party.
Which ponies will go on this quest?
Choose your ponies, tap the run button to chase after the changeling, and retrieve the stolen artifact. As you run, you'll encounter various obstacles, and based on the ponies you chose, you'll have to complete a different minigame to conquer it.
Twilight Sparkle can move things with her magic.
Of course, minigame is a pretty generous description for it, because mostly it just involves tapping or dragging things to destroy them. The animation looks okay, but it's still pretty lazy. Like, look at Rainbow Dash's backflip here.
You're gaining on it!
It doesn't seem to matter how fast you tap, you still have to complete a set number of obstacles before you can reach the changeling.
Whoa there!
There's not even any way to lose. If you sit and do nothing, the changeling never gets away. Even in the middle of an obstacle where there's clearly a meter that flashes red as the changeling gets further away, he still never escapes. Now, at first, this just seems like it's kind of a simple game for kids that fails at being engaging, but really, it's even more diabolical than that. As soon as you start the game, you get this warning message that should have been your first red flag that you're about to see some next level bullshit. This mobile app contains in-app purchases and advertising messages. Any purchase made in the app will remove pop-up ads. Sounds pretty standard, right? I mean, it's a free game, so ads are to be expected, but no, they go way overboard with this. You will encounter ads every 30 seconds. That's not an exaggeration. In fact, that may be generous in some cases. It completely breaks the flow of the game since it will happen several times in the middle of a stage. You'll be tapping away, chasing after one of the changelings, and then suddenly, BAM! Pop-up ad! And of course, because you're busy trying to tap the run button, you instantly click the ad, which takes you to the purchase page. Sometimes you'll be forced to watch an ad after every single obstacle. This is just inexcusable, and then when you return to the game, it still takes a few seconds for your taps to register correctly. This is a game that's meant for 4-year-olds. What the hell were they thinking? Actually, I know exactly what they were thinking. It's a game for 4-year-olds. Let's get the stupid kids to rapidly tap on the screen and then put ads under their finger to try to squeeze some free website hits out of them. Who cares if it's immoral, dishonest, and a waste of time to both the consumer and the advertisers themselves? We got ours! And even beyond that, the in-app purchases just further cement the level of bullshit. Eventually, you start to encounter stages that require more ponies than you have available, meaning you're unable to complete the game even if you're willing to power through the incessant advertisements. Originally, Fluttershy, Rarity, and Rainbow Dash were all locked away behind a paywall, a sleeping spell.
Queen Chrysalis has cast a spell, and some of the ponies are sleeping!
And waking them up would cost you either $3.99 apiece, or you could unlock them all for $8.50. But now they each cost $7 apiece, or unlock all for $10. But at least they do give you Rainbow Dash for free. Hooray. This is some really obvious, underhanded marketing tactics. Notice how they show all 6 ponies and say unlock all instead of unlock both, even though only 2 of them are actually locked. Also notice that it's utterly useless to buy only 1 pony unless you hate Rarity for some reason, because you just know that eventually you're going to need all 6 of them to beat the full game. For that same price, you could just buy a real game, one with actual replay value and genuine gameplay, not just clicking and dragging. So yeah, that's a pretty low bar to start off with. Let's hope the next one is better. Moving on, we have My Little Pony Friendship Celebration. There's not too much to say about this one. It's kind of hard to call it a game, it's more of an interactive toy. I suppose one neat thing is that you can scan your Friendship Celebration series toys to select them in-game, otherwise you're stuck with random ponies. There's some really obscure ones in here, like Button Bell, Coloratra, and Lady Gaga.
Hey, welcome back.
The voice acting is off.
Oh, thanks for coming to my celebration. I can't wait to show you all the fun things I have planned.
They sound close enough, I guess, but anybody who's a big fan of the show will immediately notice the difference. Gee, do I want to go to Fluttershy or Rarity? Of course it doesn't matter, because Rarity decides to show up anyway from the random pool. I should have known if I played these girly games long enough I'd have to do this. It's time for a tea party.
If I could bother you, darling, I would love another treat.
Yeah, I bet you would. I'll be honest, I used to hang out with my share of girls when I was younger too, but I never understood the idea of having a fake tea party. Maybe it's just the boy in me, but how the hell did tea parties become so ubiquitous anyway? You just sit around and pretend to drink fake tea?
It's pink tea, and it's good tea.
Holy shit, it actually is pink tea. Anyway, there doesn't seem to be a way to actually score the game, but after you win, I guess, you get to play a minigame. Throw the food at the bunnies to feed them. Of course, the easiest way to do this is to just throw out as much as possible without even aiming. You'll annihilate the competition. Finally, you get to take a picture to commemorate the moment.
Get into position, and don't forget to include every pony in the shot.
Can you tell I'm just having a blast? As you play, you level up and get to earn more prizes, so I guess if you're a completionist, it's enough to keep you coming back and playing with it. You also get invitations for parties happening in the future, so it's nice that there's a bit of a persistent online world to return to. There doesn't seem to be any in-app purchases, which is good, just the toys. So if you don't mind giving your kid a freaking iPad just to play with their ponies, I guess there's nothing really wrong with it. Finally, let's finish off with My Little Pony Puzzle Party. We're at a pretty low bar here, so I think I'll just get a head start and prepare myself for disappointment.
You did it!
Huh. Okay, well... Wait a minute. There was actual effort here. Praise Celestia! Actual effort! The animation looks exactly like something out of the show. Even Spike's voice sounds correct this time.
Tap 2 or more adjacent cubes to collect them.
It reminds me a lot of other mobile clickfests like Candy Crush, Cookie Jam, those kind of games. But instead of matching 3 in a row, you tap on clusters to destroy all matching colors. Clear enough at once, and you're rewarded with bonus items like lightning jars, cauldrons, and parasprites. If 2 bonus items are next to each other, they will share quality, so lightning jar and cauldron will explode all adjacent blocks as well. And probably the most devastating of all, lightning jar parasprites, which turns every tile of a matching color into a lightning jar and pretty much clears the entire screen. There's a lot of window dressing here, which is important for a game like this to reach a casual audience. There's tons of bells and whistles, and that happy theme tune that plays whenever you clear a stage. Pinkie Pie shouts, and every one of your leftover moves spawns a lightning jar, giving you a rush of excitement as they all explode. Sure, it's transparent and manipulative, but it all plays into the addictive quality of how games like this are supposed to be designed. Even the backgrounds offer a lot of interactivity. As you scroll through the stages, you can click on different characters and objects to play silly animations. It's all unnecessary, this is just the level select screen, but you can tell they put a lot of effort into making something that you actually want to play. As you play through, you unlock more ponies that can be charged up to use their powers to help you clear blocks. Learning to recognize the best point to use these powers is critical to getting high scores. Applejack will destroy a single tile that's blocking your combo. Rainbow Dash and Fluttershy will clear blocks either vertically or horizontally. Pinkie Pie's Party Cannon destroys blocks in a 3x3 square. Rarity changes the color of a single block, and Twilight clears all blocks of a particular color. Some of these powers actually allow you to clear the stage on the first move. Whereas others are very situational. I've never really found a good place to use Applejack's power, so mostly she's just relegated to looking pretty in the background. Don't worry though, she's used to it. The game kind of reminds me of one of my favorite puzzle games of the last 10 years, Puzzle Quest, where you have to plan your moves in advance in order to score high combos. But it's also mixed with the unfortunate trappings of these sort of free-to-play mobile games. Many of the later levels become fucking impossible unless you're willing to sit and wait for a miracle to happen and just hope the game gives you the exact pieces you need. These games are specifically designed in such a way to get you 95% of the way there, but never actually give you enough turns to win unless you're either extremely lucky or extremely skilled at planning out your moves, and Puzzle Party is no exception. I would highly suggest not bothering to buy the bonus moves unless you know for a fact that you can win on the next turn, because in-game currency is an extremely rare commodity if you don't want to buy it with real-world cash. That said, the production value in this is spectacular, and as long as you're disciplined enough to avoid making too many in-app purchases, I don't see anything wrong with playing it. And that'll just about do it for now. There are way more games based on the show, far too many to look at in a single episode. And that's without getting into fan games, hacks, mods, and other non-commercial products. But mostly, I wanted to take a look at these games because, honestly, I think there's something we can learn from them. Just because something is for kids doesn't mean it gets to be shit. The old platitude doesn't give you an excuse to be lazy. If anything, you should be trying harder to make something that's challenging, engaging, and doesn't condescend to the target audience. The creator of the new series grew up with the original show, but even she admits that the stories were insultingly simple. And she was able to come up with better ones in her own imagination that were far more inspiring than anything some corporate writer trying to please a spreadsheet could spew out. She didn't want to make something that talks down to girls, she wanted something that tries to talk them up. And guess what? By putting actual effort into the show's writing and creating something that's clever, funny, entertaining, and even emotional at times, Hasbro has managed to capture the attention of not just their target audience, but grown adults looking for something unique that they can enjoy. A show that was originally intended for little girls is now a phenomenon so big that the internet won't fucking shut up about it. Perhaps in the future, people will stop seeing games like this as just a label. There will always be mediocre games, just like there will always be mediocre people. But by providing everybody with better quality content, regardless of age, sex, race, or interest, we're giving everybody a chance to make themselves happier, and maybe, in some small way, make the world a brighter and more friendly place. Now, if you'll excuse me, all this happy pink stuff is giving me a headache. I'm gonna go do something adult. Let's see what's happening in the news here.
Continue to rise in Saudi Arabia as Islamic extremists attacked a military base on the border of Kuwait.
Mother of three was found murdered in her home last Friday.
Our company stepped down amid allegations of sexual harassment of 7
cute puppies and kittens will die if you don't donate to...
Will make America great again.
Death.
Murder.
Killing.
We had initially planned on inviting Rainbow, of course, except... We were totally gonna invite you, Rainbow. Then Twilight remembered that you don't even have a pet. And Rarity remembered that you really like taking naps in the afternoon. So Appletop figured you wouldn't be missing out on anything anyway. And Fluttershy and I nodded our heads in agreement like this. Oh, please don't be mad at us.